Odisha, culturally and resource-rich, is located along the eastern coast of India. The Bay of Bengal gently kisses its shores, making it one of the most idyllic and panoramic terrains in eastern India. The Odisha coastline stretches over 480 kilometers across 7 of its districts. The coast and the coastal waters, with its rich biodiversity, are the lifeline for the fishing community as well as several other diverse stakeholders. The concept of Integrated Coastal Zone Management, or ICZM, was first initiated in 1992 in Brazil to conserve the biodiversity on and along the coast. The Integrated Coastal Zone Management Framework is a paradigm shift from the traditional approach of sectoral management of the coastal resources to a comprehensive, integrated approach for better governance and management. In Odisha, the ICZM project was conceived with a very clear set of objectives aimed to facilitate the development and implementation of an integrated management strategy for the coastal zone by adopting a broad perspective and a multi-sectoral approach. So as to ensure wise use of coastal resources, perpetual maintenance of high level of biodiversity of critical habitats, and to maintain their ecological integrity, including sustainable coastal fishery, protection from extreme weather conditions, nature-based tourism, and infrastructure development. The ICZM project in Odisha has been taken up on a pilot basis along 2 stretches of its coastline, from Gopalpur to Chilika, and from Paradeep to Dhamra. Covering a total of 160 kilometers, the project has focused on a number of aspects concerning the coastal zone as the core of the project management. Formulation of Integrated Coastal Zone Management Plan for the state. Study of dynamics coastal erosion and associated oceanographic processes. Reduce the vulnerability to disaster. Biodiversity conservation. Provide livelihood security, pollution and environmental quality management, and improvement and conservation of cultural and archaeological assets. ICZMP creates opportunities for alternative livelihood options and activities for the local fishermen affected by the ban on fishing during the breeding season of commercially important fishes of Odisha coast and the mass mating and nesting of olive ridley turtles. The ban impacts the sustenance of the fishing community in a big way. Taking that into account, the fishery component of the ICZM project provides alternative livelihood activities like integrated pisciculture, cold chain marketing, hygienic dry fish preparation, dairy and poultry components in the project districts of Ganjam, Kendrapada and Puri. This crucial component is implemented through the Fisheries and Animal Resources Development Department after an elaborate consultative process of beneficiary selection and identification of alternate livelihood activities using the resources available in the locality and formation of self-help groups. It is aimed at providing the best alternate livelihood options and support to 600 self-help groups in 80 fishing villages. So far, more than 45,000 fisher folks from 7,510 families have been extended financial assistance to execute their alternate livelihood activities. As part of capacity building plan of SHGs, required hand-holding, technical skill upgradation training and exposure visits have been provided to the beneficiaries. In a unique initiative, the ICZMP has introduced eco-friendly solar dryers in the state for hygienically drying fish and preparation of value-added fisheries products. The state government's Department of Fisheries has identified 99 SHGs in the project region for installation of solar dryers. So far, most of the solar dryers have been procured and installed. Operations have begun at these units for the preparation of dry fish and value-added products, and it is expected to greatly benefit the fishing communities in these areas. Adequate financial support is also provided for infrastructure development and meeting the operational costs. In another component of alternative livelihood programs, the ICZM project introduced choircraft among the fishing communities. The female members were mobilized to take up choir making as a viable alternative livelihood. Along the Chilika catchment region in Brahmagiri, Krishna Prasad and Kanas block of Puri district, the ICZMP and the project executing agency, Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise Department initiated phase-wise consultative process for women self-help group formation and adoption of choircraft as their alternative livelihood. Forty SHGs have been formed in the region and trained by master trainers in the craft of choir making. They were given working shed, equipment and raw material for creation of various choir products to sustain the newly adopted livelihood option. To make this livelihood option feasible, MSME department is working on the idea of setting up a choir training cum production center along with 3 common facility centers in Krishna Prasad block. The training cum production center will provide training on defibering, spinning and rope making, weaving of dough mats, choir toys and choircraft items to the SHG members and also look after their business linkages. The common facility centers will store both the choir raw materials and choir products besides catering to the local training needs. Odisha is famous for its rich traditional and folk art forms and is known the world over for its genius in sculpture and temple architecture, including some World Heritage monuments built in the Kalinga temple style. Most of these monuments, built during the medieval period, are found along the coastal stretch. However, these magnificent structures have suffered heavy corrosion due to the salinity in the atmosphere and absence of protective measures, leaving some of them in dilapidated condition. In an effort to preserve the archaeological, architectural, sculptural and historical significance of these monuments, ICZM project has initiated an action plan for the restoration, conservation and upgradation of these structures through the State Culture Department. The department has identified 8 culturally important heritage monuments for restoration under the project. To revive traditional art and culture of temple building, and through this provide work for the diminishing class of traditional craftsmen of Odisha, the State Culture Department had organized a month-long training program for temple builders and stone artisans of the state in Bhubaneswar. This component also aims at providing opportunities for income generation activities to the communities at the heritage restoration and development sites through heritage tourism. Apart from conservation, restoration and ensuring a source of livelihood for the local people through this component, the ICZM project and Culture Department have conducted a series of training programs on the traditional Odishan temple building architecture for the local stone craftsmen. The objective is to maintain stonecraft and temple building work as a livelihood source for the local stone artisans who are now a near extinct community. Sustainable tourism is an important activity to ensure positive experience for local people and the tourists. To enable people to enjoy and learn about the natural and cultural characteristics of unique environment and also preserve the integrity of tourist sites, ICZM project visualized community-based ecotourism around Chilika Lake. The activity is implemented by OTDC and aims to stimulate the economic development of local communities in areas like Barkol, Sipakuda, Gabakunda, Gangadharpur, Mirzapur, Ramba and Kalijai Islands. OTDC is developing a number of facilities to promote community-based ecotourism as a sustainable livelihood option. Amenities such as Tourist Guide Center, Handicraft Center, Pathway, parking and food courts with unique bamboo structure have been initiated and are in final stages of completion. Various infrastructure building work have been taken up in the fishing villages of Gabakunda, Mirzapur and Gangadharpur. 50 different kinds of high-speed boats, paddle boats and jet ski boats have been sourced for the tourists under the ICZMP initiative. These boats would be utilized by the community stakeholders and local boatmen to improve their financial standing. Odisha is prone to extreme climatic conditions and vulnerable to various natural disasters. Keeping in view the growing need of multipurpose cyclone shelters, ICZMP has planned to build 14 multipurpose cyclone shelters under its project component in Ganjam, Puri and Kendrapada district. These 14 cyclone shelters will provide shelter to an estimated 14,000 people. The Odisha State Disaster Management Authority (OSDMA) is coordinating and supervising the construction of the multipurpose cyclone shelters, and all the 14 shelters are now in the final stages of completion. Chilika is one of the largest brackish water lagoon in Asia and a Ramsar site. The Chilika ecosystem is highly dynamic and is considered to be a very productive ecosystem. The Chilika Development Authority has established a wetland research and training center at Barkul for continuous monitoring of water quality and physico-chemical and biological parameters of the lake. Under the ICZMP, the activities taken up by the CDA are strengthening species research, dolphin and migratory birds research, fish, macrophytes and lake ecology. Strengthening of the Wetland Research and Training Center at Badkul for facilitating close monitoring of the lake. Augmentation of instrumentation and other equipment of Wetland Research and Training Center. And monitoring of water quality and flora-fauna habitat for Chilika Lake. In order to conserve the biodiversity on and along the coast and coastal waters of the project coastal stretches, Wildlife Wing of Forest and Environment Department has taken up mangrove plantation along the banks of tidal creeks involving EDC villages in Bhitarkanika area. The State Project Management Unit SPMU has also directly taken up mangrove plantation in Kendrapada and Ganjam, including the Chilika area, through community participation. The SPMU has also engaged 2 NGOs in its project region to facilitate and encourage community participation in the mangrove plantation. SPMU has initiated mangrove awareness campaign and carried it in 100 Eco Club schools in the project region of Kendrapada, Ganjam and Puri. Street play on mangrove awareness. School-based rallies and exposure visits are organized to sensitize people and young minds on the importance of mangrove conservation. Wildlife Wing of Forest and Environment Department has taken up the task of protection of olive ridley sea turtles by providing equipments like speedboats and trawlers, support boats by hiring for marine patrolling during mating and mass nesting. To support the protection strategy development, 2 permanent protection camps at Chinchri and Dobandi and 1 monitoring center at Chakradarpur are in progress. 33 seasonal temporary camps with manpower support have been taken up. For the protection of existing mangrove and estuarine crocodiles, 10 river protect squads are under the operation of the Wildlife Wing. For proper management of coastal biodiversity, hatchery and rearing complex and laboratory have been upgraded at Dangamal. For livelihood security of the affected coastal communities, ecotourism activities have been taken up with boats and creation of the required accommodation facilities in Bhitarkanika, Chilika and Berhampur region. With rapid industrialization along the coastal zone of Odisha, it has become imperative to develop a monitoring protocol for coastal monitoring and pollution of sea. Odisha State Pollution Control Board (OSPCB), as the project executing agency under ICZMP project, is establishing a Center for Management of Coastal Ecosystem or CMCE at Paradeep. The CMCE would be established as a center for assessment of the healthy coastal ecosystem along Odisha coast. It would monitor the coastal zone, including on broad measurements of the vital parameters. The CMCE is being developed as a LEED certified green building. The OSPCB is also establishing a full-fledged coastal environmental laboratory with state-of-the-art technology in the central laboratory of OSPCB at Bhubaneswar for analysis of physico-chemical and biological data of coastal samples. Paradip, the port city of Odisha, is undergoing rapid industrialization along with urbanization. At present, the local municipality collects and dumps some part of the estimated 50 metric tons of solid waste collected in the city and has not adopted any scientific method for the treatment of solid waste. Under ICZMP, the Paradip Municipality of Housing and Urban Development Department is setting up a solid waste treatment plant in the city. Pentha is an agricultural village, and the coastal stretch adjacent to this village has been continuously eroded over the last few years. And the existing embankment here is most vulnerable for seawater intrusion. In order to protect the village from sea erosion, a pilot project is already being implemented under the ICZMP project Odisha. It involves the construction of 670-meter geotube embankment whose design preparation as a soft engineering protection measure has been prepared by the IIT Madras. In order to achieve sustainable development of the coast, scientific field data on the dynamics of coastal process is essential. Scientific understanding of the mechanisms causing coastal change provides guidance for an appropriate societal response. Important goals of the Coastal Zone Management Program are to assess coastal change vulnerability and conduct research to identify and quantify the processes and mechanisms that contribute to coastal change. The Regional Coastal Process Study (RCPS) helps in better understanding of spatial and temporal changes and dynamics of shoreline processes, movements of sediments, areas of accretion, erosion, and bathymetry of coastal zone. Odisha is the first state in the country to initiate the Regional Coastal Process Study under ICZMP. A wealth of information on coastal energy from waves, winds, tides, and currents, coastal morphology from intertidal, supertidal, and supratidal, coastal sediment such as clastic and non-clastic, beach profile, river discharge, and surf zone measurements were generated for 12 months between May 2012 and April 2013 on time series basis by engaging a consultant. The consultant deployed the oceanographic instruments such as wave rider buoy, tide gauge and current meter and commissioned the field measurements with effect from 1st May 2012 based on sediment cells and subcells delineated by the NCSCM Chennai. An eminent panel of national experts was constituted for the interim review and guidance on the Regional Coastal Process Study. For the first time in India, such extensive time series data collection covering entire coastal stretch of Odisha was conducted. The generation of 1 year's credible primary data collection on coastal process based on the sediment cell will be further subjected to studies of numerical modeling, and the secondary data will be used for developing of conceptual modeling studies. Based on the output of the study, the Shoreline Management Plan and ICZM Plan for Odisha will be prepared through a strategic management approach for economic development, protection against coastal erosion, and to promote sustainable use and conservation of the coastal zone's natural resources.
To bridge the knowledge, we carried out a number of not only studies but also activities. I think this is the greatest strength of Odisha project, where the major investment had gone in for generation of the knowledge or the information, and that is real kind of treasure for us for kind of carrying forward this project to a real success. In case of Chilika, we have tried to strengthen their research base through 5 very compact and targeted studies. At the same time, to upgrade their laboratory to a world-class laboratory by putting the real-time water quality monitoring system. So now it is well placed to have perhaps the first wetland in India to have a ecological model and a best management system. Integrated coastal zone management project, in fact, is a very challenging task in the sense the integration is the first challenge. I think working together where there's a number of host of conflicting issues, starting from development versus the conservation versus the livelihood. So these need to be, kind of, you have to maintain an equilibrium between all these issues. We have got both kind of experiences, both success and failure. From the success, I think the lesson learned would be capitalized during the ICZM planning, and from the failure, whatever kind of, we could learn our shortcomings. So that would also help us to kind of, during the ICZM plan, we'll try to find a solution to it and try to pave the gap.
Till date, ICZMP Odisha is in the forefront in integrating the concepts of maintaining the coastal management and biodiversity conservation measures. Among 3 pilot states, Odisha has heavily focused on coastal knowledge management and research aspects, along with its twin objectives of ensuring livelihood without compromising the conservation aspects of fragile environment. Continuous innovations following the project implementation timeline and commitment to the stakeholders are the hallmark of Odisha ICZM project. It has now become a national role model for other states to adopt and replicate this model of sustainable development and long-term conservation process.